Здравствуйте, товарищи, and welcome to a video log where I want to tell you the greatest political story of my lifetime. And many of you know that I'm a big-time political junkie and I follow politics all over the world, so when something particularly extraordinary happens in my country, it's a rare treat to get to share that with the rest of the political junkies in the world. So, basically something incredible has happened here in Canada, in the political scene. And if you don't live in this country, you probably will not have heard about it. And you probably won't know why it's so shocking and why it's significant. So I want to take a little bit of time and kind of explain what happened so more people can kind of get a glimpse, right, of why everyone, at least here, is like losing their freaking minds over this. And of course, I'm talking about the election that happened yesterday in the province of Alberta. But before I start, I kind of want to talk about sort of the lay of the land in my own country, because what happened is, I think, a specifically unique Canadian phenomenon. So you have to get a little bit of insight into the country to understand why it's so incredible. So basically, Canada's it's a big country, right? It spans from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, and we're made up of 10 different provinces and 3 territories. And just like our neighbors to the south, these provinces vary widely in demographics, in kind of economic status and political attitudes and so on and so forth. So, one province kind of isn't like the other. There's definitely always differences between them. And Alberta itself is a special kind of province within the Confederation of Canada. It's the second most western province, right next to the one that I live here, which is British Columbia, which is the most western province in Canada. And Alberta kind of has a reputation for being a real redneck kind of area, right? It's often called the Texas of the North, and it's considered kind of the conservative bastion of the country, where the current conservative prime minister really got his momentum to kind of in the early in the 90s and 2000s, kind of built up their base there and used that momentum from Alberta to spread out to some of the western provinces, and eventually end up capitalizing on the government, or ended up forming government, and they've held that position for, I don't know how many years it's been now, 12 years. But anyway, so Alberta is, like I said, let's just call it, for simplicity's sake, it's the Texas of the North. But there's another wrinkle here, that is Alberta's actually the most prosperous Canadian province. And a lot of that has to do with its strong energy sector, specifically its oil and gas reserves. Alberta has among the largest proven reserves of oils and natural gas in the world, and they've used that to become a very, very wealthy and very, very successful province. However, recently, the oil and gas industry has taken a severe downturn, which has affected the province in some very profound ways, so which leads to obvious kind of economic depression there. Now you take these factors and add into the mix the current political situation in Alberta. So to kind of go back to okay, sorry, it looked like the webcam stopped recording for a second. But anyway, to kind of go back to the beginning here, Alberta, like I said, has been a conservative province, and it's been ruled by what are called the Progressive Conservative Party, which are basically the Conservative Party. But anyway, so the Progressive Conservatives have ruled a duration of it's either 43 or 44 years. You see both numbers kind of cited frequently. So basically, most people in the province couldn't have remembered a time when they weren't ruled by a progressive conservative government. And to kind of put that into perspective, you'd be really hard-pressed to find a country in the world that has had a democratically elected party rule over it for so long. So basically, people thought that this kind of institution was going to last forever, that the progressive conservatives in Alberta were undefeatable. And a lot of this feeling came from a previous election in 2012, when it looked like the progressive conservatives were going to go down. And they looked like they were going to be taken down not by a left-wing party, but another right-wing party called the Wild Rose Party, which emerged, like I said, to the right of the Progressive Conservatives. So all of a sudden they're being attacked. They're fighting a two-front war. They're being attacked on the right by the Wild Rose Party and on the left by the Liberals and the New Democratic Party. So in that 2012 election, all the polls were predicting the Progressive Conservatives were going to go down to the Wild Rose. But at the last second, it seems like a lot of Albertans changed their mind and decided to go back to that Progressive Conservative fold. And it shocked a lot of people, right? Because everyone was predicting that this is it. This is the time that it's all over. This is the time that that political dynasty comes to an end. And then when the votes start coming in, the Progressive Conservatives end up winning another crushing majority. So when it came to this election in 2015, a lot of people were looking at the polls that were coming out with a great deal of skepticism. Now, they were deciding that, well, the same thing's going to happen when people go to the polls. They're gonna change their minds again, and they're gonna go back to the devil they know and the devil they've known for a long, long time. But a lot happened in that intervening 3 years. The premier who was elected, the Progressive Conservative premier who was elected, and premier it means basically it's the equivalent of a governor in the United States. So anyway, the premier who was elected, her name was Alison Redford. And she kind of ended up being the poster child for entitlement in government, right? She was spending lavish amounts of money on sending her daughter to like various places in a government jet, taking it on vacations, building these high-rise suites, and just really, really incredible stuff. And these stories started coming out one after another, and all of a sudden, people are getting really, really upset with the Progressive Conservative government. And they're demanding basically Alison Redford's head. And they got it, right? She resigned in disgrace, resigned her seat, and now she's kind of, retired in her political life and is wandering the world in semi-obscurity, or whatever you want to say. So after this kind of disaster happens with the Progressive Conservative government, they elect a new leader, and this leader's name is, they have an interim leader, but we don't count interim leaders, who cares about them? But this new leader's name is Jim Prentice, and Jim Prentice kind of, when he's elected, right, it looks like he's the savior of the Progressive Conservative Party. It looks like he's going to come in and clean house, and the Progressive Conservatives are going to be this force, this unstoppable force once again. People were kind of heralding him as this new great leader, that he was going to be the guy that came in and made Alberta great. Unfortunately, it didn't really pan out that way, because he started making some pretty serious mistakes. The first thing that happened really was in December of last year, he orchestrated what's called a floor crossing, where people will change parties in the legislature. So basically, they'll be sitting for one party, and then they'll decide, you know what, I'm going to switch my tent and go and sit on the other side. And he orchestrated this massive floor crossing with the opposition Wild Rose Party, the party that's to the right of them, and was able to talk 9 of their elected members, including their leader, into switching from the Wild Rose to the Progressive Conservative government, which was nothing had been seen like that before in any political, at least in any Canadian political scene. I had never seen anything like that before, and people were upset about that. They kind of saw that Jim Prentice was trying to steal the government, I guess you would say. He was trying to steal it without having a real election, and basically the Wild Rose Party was reduced to 5 seats because of these floor crossers. So setting the stage, in the Canadian political system, and both federally and provincially, you need to win a certain number of seats to form government, and the party that wins the most seats basically ends up forming government. So the election is really however many areas are called ridings, or constituencies, but the technical term is ridings. However many of these ridings end up voting for your party is going to be the one that forms the government. So in Alberta at this time, after this floor crossing, the Progressive Conservative government had 70 out of 84 seats, which is an incredible margin. It's like a crushing margin. I actually did some math, and in this is my favorite statistic to bring up about it, but in the North Korean legislature, they actually do have an opposition that has no power at all, but they have these like token opposition members, but the overwhelming majority of the legislature is controlled by the Communist Party. And Alberta had the same ratio of opposition members to government members that North Korea did. So basically, they were like a one-party system. And then fast forwarding a couple months ahead, Jim Prentice starts making some more mistakes. He's I guess the government is watching the oil prices slide and how this is affecting the Albertan economy. And Jim Prentice comes out and he makes this statement that kind of became like a symbol of his government, I guess, where he told Albertans that they need to look in a mirror because it's their fault for this economic downturn. And obviously people were a little bit upset about that because it really wasn't their fault. They're not the ones that squandered all this oil wealth. They're not the ones who didn't prepare for the inevitability that oil would crash. So to tell them that, to look in a mirror and shape up is extremely offensive. And then the next mistake Mr. Prentice makes is he brings in a new budget, right? Because they have to, governments generally have to introduce a budget every year. So he introduces this new budget that responds to the new economic landscape. And this budget has a variety of tax raises and service cuts, but they're all affecting kind of regular, average, ordinary everyday Albertans. They're not affecting kind of these big corporations. They're not affecting the oil and gas producers. So it kind of looks like Jim is trying to make this budget in which the average citizen has to make up for this economic downturn, while these big corporations just get to slide on by, not having to pay anything more. And that once again added towards this rage that people were feeling in the province. And then Jim's final mistake kind of leading up to this, well, there's some mistakes that happened in between this one and the next one. But anyway, the kind of major mistake he made was he called an early election. And people don't like early elections. In Canada, not like the United States, technically, I mean, you're allowed to call, the governing party is allowed to call an election whenever they want to. So, but most people really don't like it when you do that, right? They feel like they should have the election at the scheduled time. But Mr. Prentice decides that he's going to have his election 1 year early, after 3 years instead of 4, to try and get this mandate to push forward his budget and all these changes that he wants to make. So this election campaign starts off and everybody thinks it's going to be the most boring campaign of all time. It's going to be a victory lap for Jim Prentice. He's going to go around and tout how awesome he is, and people are just going to give him another mandate. But as soon as the first kind of polls started coming out during this election campaign, people were noticing that something was weird, right? That the Progressive Conservatives were, at this point, they were winning, but not by a very wide margin. That both the Wild Rose Party and the New Democratic Party were vastly increasing their vote share. And over time, that didn't go in the Progressive Conservatives' way, or didn't go in their favor, sorry, I should say. Over time, they slowly started losing that edge, and momentum went towards the Wild Rose and the New Democratic Party. But before I get to the real key decisive turning point in this whole campaign, I want to spend some time talking actually about the New Democratic Party, because they are a political entity that doesn't exist, at least in our neighbor's government, the United States. So when I was trying to explain how extraordinary what happened was to my wife, she didn't understand why it was so shocking, because there's no political force in America that's equivalent to the New Democratic Party. So the New Democratic Party is, well, they don't like to call themselves socialist, but they're originally a socialist party, and over time it's kind of moved into like a social democratic party, a soft socialist party. But anyway, a very left-leaning party. So in the American terms, there you have two parties. You have the Republicans and you have the Democrats, and they're represented here in Canada loosely equivalent to the Liberals and the Conservatives. But the NDP is to the left of the Liberals, meaning they'd be to the left of the Democratic Party in the United States, and they're simply not a powerful enough party to really kind of encapsulate that feeling. So there's just no equivalent to the NDP in America, but there is in other countries that have multi-party systems. So it looks like the New Democrats, this social democratic party, is gaining traction in a province that is traditionally very conservative. In fact, in that 2012 election I talked about, they only won 4 out of 84 seats and only got 10% of the popular vote. But things started to change. In between then and now, the NDP elected a new leader. Her name is Rachel Notley, and she ended up being one of the greatest, one of the most dynamic politicians that Canada has seen in a long, long time. And things really started to change at this leadership debate that happened midway through the campaign. So this was a lot of people's first times to really see the leaders in action. And in this leadership debate, the NDP leader, Rachel Notley, just absolutely crushed it. Just completely made Jim Prentice look like a fool. Basically, Jim Prentice ignored all the other parties, including the Wild Rose and the Liberals, just to focus on the NDP. And every time he did, he got as good as he gave, and sometimes he got a whole lot more than he bargained for. And Albertans come away looking at this thinking, like, she's a sharp leader, she's a strong politician, and this Jim Prentice guy, maybe not so much. Maybe I'm going to take another look at the NDP. And then after this debate, all of a sudden, in the polls, NDP is continually rising and rising and rising. And this is putting the scare in the conservative and the progressive conservative camp. So they break out their old tried and true playbook, which is basically fear-mongering, warning about change, trying to get people who would be supporting the Wild Rose Party to come back to them and not kind of split that right-wing vote. And this fear playbook worked in 2012 against the Wild Rose. It actually got people who were traditionally left-leaning Liberals and NDP supporters to vote for the Progressive Conservatives to keep out the Wild Rose because they were this really scary unknown quantity. So they figured it worked in 2012, it's going to work in 2015. But unfortunately, it didn't pan out that way because they couldn't seem to attack her effectively, and all this scaremongering that they were bringing up, people were just ignoring it. They were ready for change. And then they got all the big newspapers in Alberta to endorse Jim Prentice. So all these media elites are coming out and saying, Jim Prentice, he's our guy. If you don't vote for him, you're a pack of idiots. Well, that's not exactly what they said, but in much more words, that's pretty much what they said. And that just turned people off more. They are tired of people telling them what to do. They're tired of people telling them how to vote. And then over time, that momentum the NDP had, it just kept growing and growing and growing. And then comes yesterday, in which everybody's predicting that the PCs are going to pull it out again. Even though the polls are saying the NDP's got it in the bag, nobody wanted to believe them because of what happened in 2012. So basically everyone's saying, you know what, those polls are garbage. Progressive Conservatives all the way, they're going to pull it out of the fire and they're going to get another majority mandate. But as the votes started coming in, that's not exactly what happened. Within a shockingly short amount of time, people were able to see that the NDP wasn't just going to win it, they were going to win a majority government. So again, the kind of there's a difference in Canadian politics and sort of just generally parliamentarian politics, that a party can achieve either a minority government or a majority government. So in a minority government, the winning party doesn't have over 50% of the seats, meaning that they're going to need another party to support them in order to get any kind of legislation put through the House. But if they have a majority government, they have over 50% of the seats, meaning they can do basically whatever they want to do. They don't need to appeal to another party to get anything done. They can just rely on their own votes. So people were saying, well, okay, well, maybe the NDP is going to get a minority government. They're going to have to work with one of these other parties to get their legislation done. But like I said, within a shocking period of time, people were saying that's not going to be the case. They're going to win over 50% of the seats, and they're going to form a majority government. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. The NDP came through, and for the first time in history, formed a majority government in Alberta. And I got to take some time to explain just how shocking this is, because I thought up of like some analogies to try and explain this to people who weren't weren't familiar with the structure of Canada. So essentially, it would be like if some new independent party headed up by Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders all of a sudden swept into power in like Texas or Minnesota or Alabama or like some combination thereof. It would be like, to reverse the kind of political spectrum, would be like the UKIP party in the United Kingdom overtaking and winning a majority of seats in Scotland. It would be like Arab party or something winning in Israel, and like a Arab non-Zionist party winning in Israel. It's just one of those scenarios that you never think in a million years is ever going to happen, and then one day it does, and you wake up that next day and it's like a whole new world, where all of a sudden the impossible is no longer impossible. The impossible happened yesterday, and it means it could happen again at any time. Another reason why this is so meaningful, at least in Canada, is because, like I said, Alberta has been that conservative fortress for the Conservatives, at least in the federal government. So federally, like I said, it's a similar situation to provincially. There's 300 and now 330 ridings throughout the country, and each one of those ridings votes for a member of parliament, and the party with the most members of parliament ends up forming the government. And in Canada, that conservative stronghold has always been Alberta. It's been kind of the birth of the modern Canadian conservative movement, and it's seen as this place that was just completely unstormable, that there's no way anyone but conservative would ever win there. So waking up today, I'm sure there are a lot of people in the federal party that are more than a little worried about this development. And that's also important because there's a federal election coming up here in Canada in a couple months in October. And basically, people are going to be looking at the three leaders, and if the NDP runs a really good campaign, there's no telling what they might be able to accomplish, right? They might be able to storm Alberta federally, just as they did provincially. Because I guess the general feeling here in Canada was that a socialist, like a social democratic party, was never going to win federally. It was not going to happen. But now, after seeing that the provincial wing of the party stormed the most conservative part of the country, I don't think anyone's now thinking today that there's no way that an NDP government couldn't happen federally. Because if they can win in Alberta, they can win anywhere. So I think it's pretty clear that, and most people probably know this, that I am a big-time NDP supporter. So my colors are out in the open. There's no mystery there. And obviously, I'm pretty excited about what happened and the implications that it has for my country. But even if it didn't go the way I wanted, let's say that the Wild Rose Party won, I'd be happy, just because finally that 44-year-old dynasty is over, and Albertans stood up and they said, I don't want to listen to what you have to tell me anymore. I don't want to be ruled over by corporate interest. I want to rule myself. And that's a pretty awesome story. There's never been, at least like I said, I can't think of any swing politically that's happened on such a magnitude in anywhere in the world, at least not in my lifetime. So it's exciting times, right? It's exciting times to be a political junkie in this country, and it's going to be exciting times going into this election in October. But I wanted to tell people about what happened, just because it's a story, right? And it's a pretty incredible story. So if anything I said at all kind of piqued your interest, I definitely encourage you to kind of read up on what happened. Go explore that story a little more, because there's plenty of articles and materials and stuff that have been written about it, right? Now that everybody who kind of kind of thought that what was going to happen didn't happen. So all these people are now waking up with egg on their faces. Now they're all trying to come out and say like, oh man, that this new party, it's going to fail and blah, blah, blah. And maybe it will, you know, you never know. But I think that the NDP kind of understand that they've been given a really historic mandate yesterday, and if they screw it up, right, there's going to be hell to pay. So I think they're going to be very cautious with the power that they've been given. At least that's my prediction. And going into the future, what's going to happen between the Wild Rose and the Conservatives, these two right-wing parties? Well, I think the Progressive Conservatives are dead. I think that party will probably be merged into the Wild Rose, and the Wild Rose will emerge as the new Conservative Party in Alberta. I'm not sure if it's going to happen quickly or if it's going to take another electoral defeat for the Progressive Conservatives, but it'll happen because one of the reasons why the NDP got such a striking mandate was because of vote splitting on the right wing. And basically the Progressive Conservatives and the Wild Rose were almost exactly at 25% apiece, and that's like a recipe for like disaster when it comes to vote splitting. So I think they're going to see that going into the next election 4 years from now, and they're going to try and remedy that one way or another. And the last thing I want to mention, because this election hasn't been crazy enough, is that this is the first time I've ever seen that two candidates were tied in a vote. So there's a riding in Calgary, which is it's the biggest city in Alberta, in which the Progressive Conservative candidate and the NDP candidate actually tied in the number of votes. They got the exact same number of votes, which is 7,015, and they're trying to figure out what the hell they're supposed to do. So they're going through a recount now, and if it ends up being the same way, what they're going to do is they're going to look through spoiled ballots and see if there's anything that they can, I guess, unspoil, and you know, one vote can go to one party or another. And if that fails, then they have to throw another election, that the seat is declared vacant, and they have to have another election to see who's going to win it. And yeah, that's Momo back there. He's stretching, enjoying the sun. But anyway, so yeah, I never seen anything like that either. I never seen a tie vote. That's incredible. So whoever said one vote didn't matter, well, at least in this circumstance, it certainly would have. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, that's the end of the story. Like I said, I just wanted to I wanted to share it. It's exciting times, so I'm in a good mood. Today. So with that, I want to thank you guys for watching. This has been Stylighter, signing off for now, and until next time, you guys take care.